Hi everyone, and welcome to this video clip. In this video we're going to be completing Lab 11, which is managing VMFS data stores. So we've got a number of tasks here that we have to complete, plus a supplemental one we're going to put on at the end. So let's get rolling. You'll notice that I've already connected into my student workstation. I have the vSphere client up and running. I'm logged in as the root user, and I'm on my home screen. So the first task is going to be renaming data stores. The ones we're going to rename are the ones that are directly attached to our hosts. So what we'll do with that is select on storage, and we have to rename either Datastore 1 or Datastore 1 and then 1 in brackets. And the reason that we see that is the ESXi hosts, when they create their first data stores, are always called Datastore 1. But when we connect those into vCenter, vCenter can't have two different data stores with the same name, so it renames one of them. Now the question might come into play though is which one's which. So I'll show you an easy way to find that out. I'm going to select the top data store, and once I've selected that, we will see that the information for that data store pops up. And if I go to Manage and then Connectivity and Multipathing, we can see that Datastore 1 is the one that's connected to ESXi 1, and therefore the other one will be ESXi 2. So there's also another path that you can take, the one that I put in the lab notes. You can try that one out as well. What I'm going to do is simply go back to my storage here, and I'll right-click on Datastore 1. I'm going to rename it, and we're going to call this local-ESXi 1, and then I'm going to rename the second one local ESXi 2. Now this is a very common practice that we see in industry, whereby those data stores that are basically the storage that ESXi has installed one on the host is going to have a local dash and then whatever the name of the host is. So local-ESXi 2. And we're good to go. So we've now got our data stores renamed. Task 2, what we want to do is go back and take a look at what has been made available to us or presented out to us by iSCSI. So we can take any one of the hosts. I'm just going to navigate over here into hosts. And once that finishes refreshing, I'll select ESXi 1. You can use either one of ESXi 1 or 2, since the iSCSI targets are presented out equally to both of the hosts. So I'm going to go back over to Manage, Storage Adapters. I'm going to scroll down here and make sure that my iSCSI adapter has been selected. And then down at the bottom here in the Paths tab, you can see all of the LUNs, or the targets if you wish, that are made available off of the iSCSI server. So you can see LUN 1, LUN 4, LUN 3, and then down here at the bottom LUN 2. Each of these are presented out as extents that can then be used to create VMFS data stores, and then VMFS is going to basically look at this as being a locally attached disk, except it happens to be out over the network. Okay, now we're ready to actually create a VMFS data store. So I'm going to right-click on my host and select New Data Store. That's one method of doing this. We launch the New Data Store wizard once that comes up. And in this case, ESXi 1 is the host we're launching this on. The data store will be visible to ESXi 2 when we're finished because they get shared by vCenter. VMFS is the type. Go next. We have to pick which LUN we're going to use. So as per your lab notes, this is going to be LUN 1. And the name of the data store is going to be private VMFS 01. We're going to use VMFS 5. No need to use a previous version. And one of the things we have to do is specify out of that extent how much of it we're going to actually use for the data store. Now the lab is telling us to use 9, And the reason we're doing that is so that we can show later on how to actually go about making it larger. There's not really any, let me finish this. There's not really any practical reason why you would ever do that I'm aware of, but at least we know that that's possible. So right now we can see over in our running tasks that it's creating the VMFS data store. I'm going to select related objects, and then once that's finished, we're going to see that our new data store, private VMFS1, is going to be in the list. So we're finished. Here's private VMFS1 here, and if you notice over in the tasks that it scanned ESXi2, so ESXi2 can see this as well. Next part of this task is to create a second data store. So I'm going to go ahead and select the icon over here to once again launch the new data store wizard. It's going to be on ESXi1. It's going to be VMFS. This guy is going to be private VMFS-02. Notice that LUN1 is not available anymore because we used it already. So we're going to pick LUN2 instead. We'll say next. We'll use VMFS5 again. Next. This one is going to take the entire capacity of the extent. Next. And then finish. This task is now running. Once that's done, we're going to see we'll have private VMFS2 in the list as well as private VMFS1. And here we go. Now, the next thing we're going to do, which is task 4, is we're going to increase the size of private VMFS1. This is the one that we're going to make bigger essentially by using up that extra gigabyte of space that we had. So I'm going to pick private VMFS1, and that will pull up its properties. We can see that we are in Manage. That's where that was before from when we looked at what host Datastore 1 was connected to. While we're here, by the way, notice that the connectivity for private ESXi VMFS01 is both ESXi1 and ESXi2. I'm going to go up to General. Because of the fact that we can make this bigger, you'll notice that there's something here that says Increase, so I'm going to select that. And we will see that all of the different extents that can be used, either 3 or 4 which have not been used yet, or 1 because it's expandable. I haven't used all that space. I'm going to select that guy and say Next. It's going to come up and tell us, okay, so you've got 10 gigabytes total. What are we going to do with this? I'm going to hit the drop down and say use the free space to extend the data store. How much of it do I want to use? All of it. Next, and finish. So that's not going to expand the data store. When we're finished, you're going to see this is going to have gone from an increase in capacity from basically 8 to 8.75 gigabytes. Why not 10? Again, there's some overhead there that doesn't allow us to go all the way up to the maximum. So sure enough, here we are with VMFS 1 now redone, and it's now larger than it was before. If I go back and look at the summary as you would have, we can see that from a storage perspective, our storage is now larger there. Sorry, let me go back and find the data store itself, not the host. So on the summary for private VMFS1, here we see that basically pretty much the entire space is available except for overhead. Okay. Now, the next thing we want to do is delete a data store. So that's task 5. VMFS2 is the data store that I want to get rid of. So to get rid of a data store, if you never need to do that, you right-click, all vCenter actions, delete data store, which is down at the bottom, and go. So that's now going to delete the data store. You can see that that task is now in process over on the right-hand side here. One of the things I'll mention while this is in process, remember that you cannot have any active virtual machines on that data store when you're deleting it. So if you delete the data store while VMs are booted up, it simply won't let you. It will error when you try to do that. So wait a minute here for this to be deleted. And the reason that's important is because the next thing we're going to do is look at another method of making private VMFS 01 larger. Okay, so that's finished. I'm going to come back, and this is task 6 now, which is making VMFS 01 larger. So I'm going to select that. And once again, once private VMFS comes up, I'm going to go into Manage. And in general, we have this button to increase. So basically the same one that we used the last time. If I select that, you'll notice that when the available devices pop up, LUN1 is no longer here because we've consumed all of that. LUN2 is now back because we just got finished deleting the data store that was mapped into LUN2. So that's now available to us again. So what I'm going to do is select LUN2, and I'll say Next. How much of LUN2 do we want to use? By default, I'm going to use all available partitions, and I'm going to use all available space. So we're not going to make that any smaller. So we're going to add another 10 gigabytes onto the existing 10, so we'll be up to 20 by the time we're finished. I'll say Next and Finish, and off we go. So once this task is finished, we'll take a quick look at how we know which LUNs or which extents are being used to comprise this particular data store. All right, so that's done. We've done a quick rescan to make sure that the data store is visible to all of the different hosts. You'll notice that the size is larger now. It's now a maximum of 19.5 gigabytes, so basically 256 meg off of each one of the extents for overhead. And if I select on device backing, you're going to see that we've got 2 different devices. So basically each one of these is the extent. From your notes, if you remember, you can have up to 32 extents and up to 64 terabytes total. Okay. So that's the end of the lab book part other than doing a quick rename. So I'm going to rename this from private VMFS 1 simply to VMFS 1. So the private's going to come off the front of that. We'll get rid of that and OK. And this guy's now going to be renamed. The last thing that we have to do is the supplement to this particular lab. That's going to be creating another data store. This data store is going to be another 20 gigabyte one that will be created from LUN3. So I can right-click on Training, which is where I'm going to want that data store to go. I'm going to pick New Data Store, which I think I have to go to All Settings for that. And there we are. Okay. Again, this is going to be in training, which means it's going to show up, in this case, on all of the different hosts automatically. I'll say Next, VMFS. My data store name is going to be VMFS 02. Select a host. It doesn't matter which one of these I pick. We can select which LUN we want. In this particular case, it's going to be LUN 4, so 20 gigabytes. Say Next, VMFS version 5. We're going to use all the partitions. We're going to use all the space on the one and only partition. Next and Finish. Again, we can see the task that is running. When that's finished, we'll see a VMFS 2 pop up in the inventory over here on the left-hand side. It's done a rescan. Here's VMFS 2. And just so that we can see that that is connected to all of the hosts, I'm going to switch back over to the Host and Clusters view. Once that refreshes, I will select host 1, which is already selected here, as we can see. I'm going to go over and select related objects. And data stores, we can see VMFS 2, which is currently unmounted. That will be mounted in a second once it finishes up. And then if I pop over onto ESXi2, again, related objects and data stores, VMFS 2 is already mounted on here. So that will be finished up on ESXi1 in just a couple seconds. Anyway, that's basically it for Lab 11. Hopefully this was helpful for you, since this is now the end of the video, and we'll see you next time.